Okay. Thank you all for coming. This is our first time doing this sellers workshop, and it's really just about dealing with the community that's built wealth and what to do with their wealth, what to do with the house. We're going to have different subject matter every quarter on this. So really excited because again, this is about protecting your asset. So I'm going to get started with the presentation. Okay. So my name is Gary Nix with the Gary Nix team. I've been in real estate for 20 years. Before I got into real estate, I've done some investment of my own. Didn't work out too well at that time. But again, that's why I value education. When I first did my first investment, I wasn't really educated in the process. And my co-presenter is not here yet. Is an attorney, Mark Swadek. Is a trust attorney, and he's been doing that for a minute too. And it's helped me and some of my clients in the past. All right. Let's go. All right. This is me. Let's move on from that. And Mark, as soon as you come on, we'll let you, speak. Okay. It's a certified legal specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law in California. MBA with emphasis in finance. Awarded as best of the beach, best estate planning, trust, and probate attorney. Daily Breeze reader for people that are in the South Bay. And is a licensed real estate broker too. So really great guy to work with. Okay. All right, we have a blank slide. Okay, so we're going to talk about wealth today. Every one of us at one point of time, we start our adult life. Some start it earlier, some started later. You either go to school, even if you don't go to school, hopefully attend some school, and then you go into life and you start the work process. Most people start with being hired to do a job, and they do it, and then sometimes we progress in having our own business or whatever that may be, right? That's the journey that we take in building our life, and along the way, you learn that you have to put some money aside, invest. A lot of people are doing crypto investing. Some are doing Bitcoin. So I know I have some investors on the line, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm not that deep into every investment. But whatever it is, you work, you make money, and you put something aside, even if it's just in a savings account. I talked to some people that they just put their money in the mattress, underneath the mattress. I try to recommend taking it from there and putting it into a bank where at least it's yielding something for you. If it's a bond that you're going to buy, you buy the bond, that grows. If it's mutual funds, that you buy, whatever it is, you'll start growing that wealth. And that's what we call your net worth, right? The top 1% of Americans are people that have a net worth of over $2 million. And then you have the top 10% of people that have a net worth of over $1 million, right? But you have whatever that is, you build that wealth along your life. So all of that is where it amounts to wealth that you're growing. And some of us have been fortunate that we come from a tree. When I say a tree, your parents or your grandparents have built some wealth for you that you take over or you improved on. And some people just take over and don't really improve on it, but they still assimilate that wealth. I remember helping a young lady in the beach cities that, our grandma died, and they left her a fourplex in Hermosa Beach. We put her for sale, We got a cash offer for almost $2 million for it. And it was all paid for. So that's wealth that was created for her. And that's how, you know, we continue to improve on our wealth. So when we build the wealth, I don't quite get this slide here, but let me just keep rolling. This is just showing you the different avenues. Some people build wealth by savings. Some people build wealth by investing. And whatever that is growing for you, all right? This is just, and other people build wealth by buying a house. A house is a good place to create wealth. You know, you buy one house, you buy the other. By the way, your wealth is not really determined by just the house you live in. It's really determined by the other houses that you add to it. You know, you create that wealth by having more opportunities to build this, you know, together, all right? So after all this is done, you know, you now have a network of so much amount, right? You have a network of so much amount. And whatever that is, 500,000, 200,000, a million, $5 million, you've created this network. Now, you know, what most people forget to do is, how do you protect this? Because life can happen. I remember I watched this movie with this lady that used to be on, I think, Grey's Anatomy. I forgot the name of the movie, but you know, in this movie, she and you know, they have a couple of friends. This couple was married, young couple married, they just had a baby. She was the best friend of the wife, and the guy has his best friend. But anyway, they went on a trip after they had a baby, and you know, they had an accident and they passed away. The accident took their life, and they just had this baby. And because they had already put up a trust on their name, that if anything were to happen to them, and they made the friend, the girlfriend, and the boy and the boyfriend the administrator of the trust. And then they were faced with the decision of what they're gonna do. They have some wealth they left behind, but they just had a baby, and they have to navigate through life of, okay, managing the wealth and managing what's in the trust. You know, the baby they just had, and they had to grow up in becoming a parent of this child, because they didn't want to give the child for adoption. So whatever that is, you know, when we create this wealth, we need to set up a plan, because life can happen anytime. So let me, I'm gonna stop share for a minute just to let you guys feel what I'm talking about. I've been fortunate, because I do what I do, to come across people all the time, right? And just last year, I was working in the neighborhood, and I know a lady that I've known her for a while, and she has 2 homes, you know, right beside herself. She's living in one, and one behind her, she also owned it. That was kind of vacant for a while. And I was talking to her, and I was talking about trust. And I say, you know, Miss So, you are a little older, and of course, we're in the middle of pandemic. Have you set up a trust? And she said, Gary, you know, I don't have any kid. I don't have time to do that. And I say, you know, so, and I took a minute to just talk to her that, okay, tell me more about that. Is there anybody that you care for? She said, no, I don't have any kid. My family, they're all greedy. They all want to take on my house. So I don't want to give it to any one of them. I said, okay, is there anybody else that you care for? Then she said, well, you know, my nephew, I'm taking care of him. He's staying with me. He's, you know, he's already in his 40s. So I'm assuming it's a special need type of person. So I said, okay, good. you've been taking care of him for how long? She said, well, he's been living with me for almost 20 years because nobody would take him in. I said, great. So you do care for him. So why don't you set up the trust and make him the beneficiary of the trust if anything happened, and then maybe assign somebody to be your trustee if anything happens to you. Well, she kind of pondered about that, and she said, well, you know, it's really bad. I don't want him to really have it. So I couldn't get her to decide on something. All right, that's one incident. I did a similar presentation last year, actually, early last year. And a friend of mine, whom I know pretty well, called me up and said, Gary, I'm really sick. It went out of the country. I don't know what happened to him there. And it came back into the country really, really sick. And I quickly talked to him about the same matter. And he agreed that, yes, I do need to do something, because I know he owns a shopping center in Gardena, and he has an income property. Now, it's interesting because he's done, again, it's like most of us, he's worked all his life and create this little world for himself, right? But he went out of the country to get married, you know, and the lady had 3 kids for him. They've not come to the country. He's always gone out of the country to go meet them, or, you know, because I feel it's a young lady, and he's a little older in age. So he hasn't brought the children in here yet. But then he was met with this sickness, and I told him to call the attorney to set up the trust. And I think he has good intentions to do that. However, the sickness got heavy into him, and it passed. And so I want you guys to see where I'm coming from in the passion of really educating people, because you don't know when it's going to happen. This guy, we used to go to the gym together, is very healthy, but you know, life can happen to anybody at any given time. So what can we do to set ourselves up right? Okay, let me go back to sharing. So, all right. Does anybody have any comment so far? Cool. All right. So the tree of wealth, what are those? In other words, how do we create the tree of wealth? Basically what we've been talking about, right? My assistant put a lot of stuff. It's just showing you all the different ways we have this wealth, you know, create together, right? Working, you know, creating business, investing, building houses, whatever those your tree is, you're doing it. So why should you consider a living trust? Because once you've set all this wealth up, you need to set up a living trust. And let's go through why that's important, okay? First of all, you want to avoid the government from dictating your assets, where it will be distributed and to who, right? If you don't have a direction, then somebody else is going to do the direction for you. And then the thing that most people do not desire is family members fighting with each other. You know, and this happens a lot. I mean, I'm in the middle of 5 probates right now, and cousins, and, you know, I mean, just so much hatred to navigate through who deserve this thing, who, you know, and it's immensely. I can't say the exact thing, but I mean, I have like 3 cases with everybody just thinking it's their right to this wealth. you see the children, well, the children did not take care of the person. The cousin was the one that's taking care of the person. So that person, they deserve to have it. And some of the children say, yeah, that person deserve it, but we are still the natural, person. All of that just is, it can be chaotic, if you don't set it up. Because, when you look at it, the heart of the matter is the person that built the wealth. They have a desire of who they want to pass on their wealth to, right? So it's always good to look at that. But if you don't have it set up, guess what? It's going to be the court, and it's going to be free interpretation for everybody else. And really avoiding probate is the key. Setting up a will is not enough. In the old school, people used to think, okay, if we set up a will, my will will tell you what I want, who I want. No, that's not enough. That doesn't protect you, because the will can be challenged. The only thing that cannot be challenged is the trust. And so we want to avoid probate. Now, let's talk about probate, right? What is a probate? So in probate, the court decides who receives your assets. And this goes through a lot of interpretation. I mean, if I give you an example on one I'm dealing with right now in Santa Monica, we had to open like 5 probates because there was a will to 5 children, right? And then those 5 children, the owner died, the 5 children died. There was never a trust set up. So now the grandchildren, and this is like a big estate, it's over $2 million estate. So now the grandchildren are fighting as to who deserves it more. Oh no, it's my dad that took care of grandparents. All of that is going on. And then you have some other families that come into it. So when this is not set up, then creditors are encouraged to file, their suit to collect. And because you don't know, we don't have anybody that's managing the estate, anybody can come from anywhere to say, hey, this person owes money and that person owes money. And you got to go through fighting that if it's right or not. Probate fees are also set by law and on the gross value of your asset. Now, let me kind of explain that, because when you leave it to probate, good thing Mark is not in right now, the probate fee, if you have $1 million estate, the first 100,000, the court charge like 2%. And then the next one, they charge like 1% on each 100,000. So if you have a $1 million or $2 million estate, and the estate, we put everything together. We put the house, we put the money on the account, we put any stocks that's in there. We even put cars in the estate. Even though the cars is not anything that somebody wants, they're gonna get a value for it. And all of that is now put together to create an estate. And that's what the attorney is gonna charge. And it's still gonna charge money up front to get started with it, right? So, and because of, probate is always left to interpretation of anybody to come and challenge it, and the judge have to go through this decision process. Sometimes you can get 4 different lawyers involved in a probate matter. I've been to the probate court, and it's just not fun. And it can be lengthy in terms of how long it takes for you to get it. I mean, I've even sold some houses under probate that my client, who's the administrator of the probate, it took them 6 months to collect, because it still needs to go back to the court to settle. When this thing is in a trust, the money goes to the administrator of the trust, and right away, and they can do whatever they want to do at that point. So in probate, disputes, dispute upon dispute are just a common part of that process. So we want to avoid this for that reason. So, and how do we do that? Okay. Well, establish a living trust. If you set up a living trust, that means it's a trust while you're still alive. And you can change that from time to time because you're alive. You can, today you can set up for so many people to be part of the inheritance, so to speak. And so the next day somebody pisses you off, you can change it and take them out, right? But at least you have something set up while you're on. If you want your spouse, if you want your child, sometimes you even want your other family member that you trust more to take over a trust, So what, let me now give you guys some numbers on the reason why you do this, right? It's a very common thing that we all don't want Uncle Sam to take our money, right? I mean, our ex-president was very clear on that. He makes billions of dollars and he finds ways to keep his money from Uncle Sam, right? So Proposition 19, date of death is the date of transfer. So if your parents or if you own a property originally, maybe you bought a property for $36,000 and after 35 years or 40 years, the property is now worth $1 million, right? The cool thing is up to the date of death, the property in the trust is protected to that value at the date of death, right? Change of ownership must be reported within 150 days. So if anything happened, you need to report that, this person died and we are now taking over the estate. To qualify, children must make their parents resident their own personal residence within 1 year and file the exemption paperwork. So if something were to happen, you got to move in to the property. I just helped a lady in Torrance that the brother didn't have any kids, brother put in a trust. And that's a really good scenario because the brother and her, they didn't necessarily get along well, but he still recognized that was his only family. And she was married, she has kids, he never got married. So he set up a trust that if anything were to happen to him, his sister still, gets it. So, and life happens, he had a heart attack, boom. The sister got it and it's like, okay, what do I do? I said, you gotta move in if you wanna take ownership and not pay capital gains tax. She was living in a, 3,000 square foot home. His home is like a little bitty 1,200 square foot, but it's in a good area. It's in a better area than what she was living at. So she moved in within a year, so that way she take that ownership and eventually we sold the property and she didn't have to pay tax on almost $800,000 of accumulated wealth. I mean, that's knowing the law and working with it so you can get value to it. All right. So children receive an adjusted property tax basis equal to the parent's basis, plus no more than $1 million exemption, which is subtracted from the current fair market value. So the house is protected up to $1 million. If you move in there, your tax base go back to the original tax base. Let's say they bought it for $36,000 scenario. They move in, you are not paying any new tax, even though the house is worth $1 million. If it's worth more, you'll pay the difference at that point, especially if you do sell it. Okay. So example, parents' property tax base is $700,000. Fair market value of parents' date of death is $1.7 million. So that's $1 million above. Proposition 19, maximum allowable exemption is $1 million. So they bought it for $700,000. It's worth $1.7 million. Proposition 19 cover you up to $1 million of that. So your new adjustable tax base is $1.7 million. So since the adjusted tax base equals the fair market value of 1.7 on the parent's date of death, there is no property tax assessment. That's really, really great. Now, there's some property that you can have more than that, yes. I helped a couple in PV a few years back that they originally bought the house for $36,000, and at the time of the husband's death, the house is now worth 1.5 million. So yeah, but we still, even in that situation, we can still use improvements and all that stuff to cover the difference if she were to sell the property and still not have to pay tax on it. Okay. So so in the case where parents' property tax base is 700,000, the fair market value at date of death is 2 million. Just wanted to give you that, you guys, the difference in that. So if it's 2 million, that is worth a little bit more. So in this case, you have the 700,000 plus the 1 million, Proposition 19 covered, right? So fair market value is now 2 million minus the 1.7. That's a 700,000 original tax base plus the 1 million exemption. So now there's a $300,000 where you have to pay taxes on, but you're only paying taxes on the 300,000 instead of the $2 million dollars. So that's kind of making it. Is everybody getting that so far? Okay. I think there's
I have a question.
Okay.
My question, good morning, first Paul. It's nice
Good
to
morning.
join the program. My question is, I'm not clear, it's not clear what's the difference between the living will and the, what do you call it?
The trust?
Living trust and a will.
The trust, the will and the trust.
Okay, so the will is a letter of document that just says, I want this and that to happen, right? Yeah. So in the trust is a legal document that's, you know, a will is something you can write and just have it notarized, right?
Okay.
The trust is a legal document that's approved by the system, as it's almost like a if you write your own personal letter as opposed to an order by the court. So that's the difference. That's why the will usually don't carry anything.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the difference is that one is still document. They're both legal document, but the will, once you write it, that's it. If you don't go back to amend it, because it takes a process. But the living trust is almost like something you type on Word document. I mean, I'm just making an example. You have to notarize it, but you can change it anytime. The will, most of the time, people don't remember to go back. Maybe you had a property that you've already sold, but that property was mentioned in your will, but you did not go back to amend your will. Or maybe you have acquired new properties, or you have new children or new grandchildren that are not mentioned in your will. If you don't go back to change your will, those people are out. They're left out of your will. So a living trust is very flexible. You can update it every time. As soon as something changes, you can update it and just have it notarized to say you made the amendment and modification. But the process of legalizing and amending a will is much more cumbersome, you know, because you have to write it all over again. But in terms of a living trust, you can just modify. Take whatever is no longer relevant to you, take it out, add whatever is new. That's the difference. One, that's why they call it a living trust. You can also take money out if you have a need for it, you know, like you take, but there's also just a simple process to do that if you put some things away. So it's very easy to modify a living trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My next question is, if God forbid I die before my mom, can I assign somebody to take care of mom while I'm gone? Though the mom is not in America.
I wish Mark is here to answer that question. I tell you what, I'll get back to you on that. But
I can answer that question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, you can, because again, your living trust is a legal document. It just have to be enforced in another court system. So if you already have an attorney, you will need to retain an attorney in Nigeria or wherever your mom is, and designate that person as someone who will be the administrator to ensure the caregiving or well-being of your mother. You have to assign someone, and maybe have a plan A and plan B, but it has to be mentioned there, because anything that is legal will be carried out according to the letter of the law. So, yeah.
And my last question would be, can you take any of your child out of your will or your living trust?
Absolutely, on that for sure. That's why you can make adjustment to it. I know even in my home, we're still, fighting on who stays on, who does not stay on our trust, right? Yeah, you're entitled to it. You can. I'm actually just dealing with a client that initially she she actually set up a trust, and in the trust, our property was supposed to go to all our children. And then we looked at another deed that was recorded that she took it all back. After it's like 1985, 1991, she took it all back and put it back to herself. So even though some of the kids thought, oh, this was still established before, so therefore we have total access to it. But you have a right to change that and record that deed the way you want it. That's why children, they have to continue to be good or be responsible for you to continue to want to be a blessing to them. But we still have a lot more to cover. If you can hold off on the questions, let's go back and because I don't want us to miss any information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we talked about how much is protected. Again, I think we'll talk about this already. Exemption, adjusted parent original basis. Yeah, we did that already. Okay. So how to set up the trust? How do you set up the trust? Let's kind of go through that process of what you must do to set up the trust. All right. Well, number one thing is we recommend hire a professional, right? Get a lawyer, a trust attorney, to help you set it up. They have a template already. They'll ask you all the questions. And with a lawyer, they can easily help you revise it where it needs to be revised, right? If a lot of people say, well, that's going to cost me $5,000 that I don't want to spend, I don't have, whatever that is. If you can do that, the next thing you can do, I'm glad Mark is not here because he doesn't want to hear this part, is you can go to LegalZoom, or, there are some websites that allow you to set up the trust, and they ask you questions and they set it up for you. And you have to then execute it and then go have some deed recorded to put in the trust, okay? It's some little more legwork to be done. When you get an attorney puts the whole thing together for you. They notarize it for you. LegalZoom will help you prepare the parameters of the trust, and then you have to go execute what you need to do. My point is, you just want to get it done at whatever ways you can get it done. I have helped a family put together a trust literally without them paying anything. We went online and we did it, and we had to do it pretty quickly. I wish I had thought about that for my friend. I guess when I'm at gunpoint, I figured it out. I just went to a website and we put it together and we get it recorded, and it was passed by the court because if they didn't have that trust set up, they would have lost a property they had. So, at gunpoint, we figured it out. So I'm just saying you can get it done if you go online. There's going to be a website you can track down, because that's what I did, with that family, and we put it together, and they were able to protect their property. So it's really a good thing to do. And if you go to the exercise, number one, this exercise lets you know what you have. Once you start going through the process of, okay, what wealth do I have? And it's really recommended every so many years, 2-3 years, go back and see what you have. You may have one asset before that you put away. How many times have you make an investment in Apple or whatever, and you forget about it, and the next thing you know, you have, some amount of wealth in that portfolio that you haven't checked before. So it's always good to look back and see what you have. Okay. And so let's go through the type of trust you can establish. Okay. What are the different kind of trust you can? Okay. You have the living trust. You have the revocable living trust and the irrevocable living trust. Let's just kind of go through what those are. Again, you'll want to consult with an attorney to get into the facts of this. Let's go. Okay, so the living trust itself is a legal document that places your assets, investment, bank accounts, real estate, vehicles, and valuable personal property in trust for your benefit during your lifetime, and spells out where you'd like these things to go upon your death, right? So again, that's what I'm saying. Once you go into this process, it lets you know what you have. And, some people have jewelry that's worth, $200,000, $500,000 that they never really assess it, right? So especially for the women, all the jewelry, this gold that you buy from time to time, what are they worth? Okay. Let's see. Excuse me. Okay, so now we'll talk about the revocable living trust. Okay, a revocable one is a legal document that places the grantor's asset, again, into a trust, like the living trust, during a lifetime, and then distributes there to his heirs or beneficiaries after his death. The grantor can change or cancel the trust while he is still alive. So a revocable one just means you have more flexibility with it. You can turn it around from time to time. David, thank you for being on. I'm gonna ask you a few questions about this, okay?
Yeah, no worries.
All right, and then the irrevocable one, this is more like, I have a special needs trust, and I have a regular trust. Something like that, a special needs trust is usually irrevocable. Once it's set up by the court, and it's really hard to change those around. So let's just give it's a trust that cannot be modified, amended, or terminated without the permission of the grantor's beneficiary or beneficiaries. So this is usually something that's set up by the court for a purpose. So for you to change it, you have to get the beneficiary, or maybe the court itself. You have to get more people involved. It's not just something you can change yourself, right? Again, it same thing, like every trust, it puts everything, all the wealth, all the different forms of wealth into the trust, and it's spelled out. David Plummer, thank you, is a title rep that will have more official, because they are the one that approve what goes into probate, what doesn't go into probate. So I thank you for being on the line. So we'll do some Q&A later on, so that way you can help us with that, okay?
Okay.
All right, so any questions? So we got the different forms of
Yeah,
trust.
I have a question.
Okay.
With the irrevocable trust, I haven't updated my information on that, but I wonder if long-term, a long-term care can be part of the special need in that category. Because it's one thing for you to have all of this wealth in trust you're willing to will to someone else. If you get sick, you happen to be in what's it called? This long-term facility where you need to be cared for. And your beneficiaries are more interested in stepping into the thing and taking your money. Is the insurance or long-term care part of what you can put in the irrevocable conditions in the trust?
Okay. David, do you have any comment on that before I say
Answer is
anything?
yes. One of the things about long-term care is no one knows if they're going to ever need or use long-term care. And that's one of the reasons why even on a revocable or the irrevocable trust, you can make that amendment. They allow you to make amendments for health. Generally, when someone does a trust, though, one of the questions asked is a health question by your lawyer, if the lawyer is doing it, or if you're doing it on LegalZoom. There is a health portion of the trust that says, what happens if you need long-term care, or, who takes care of me, or who doesn't take care of me, or what property goes up for long-term care. So that can be added and amended in either one of the cases. Now, one thing that I wanted to just quickly say, we were talking about the difference between a will and a trust. A trust is recorded. Once you get that document done, it is recorded to the county recorder. So it's a recorded document. Wills are never recorded. You could write a will on a napkin, but that trust, especially if the property is involved, is recorded with the county recorder. So when someone pulls up your property, it says Family Trust of David and Terry Plummer, right? So the trust actually owns the property, but we own the trust. So that's why it's very difficult to do anything against the trust, because the trust is a recorded document, hopefully done professionally and recorded.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions that we can explore? I am so sorry. I keep forgetting about letting people know we have a raffle drawing at the end. So please, we're almost at the end. Thank you for those of you that are staying on. If you're on Facebook Live, we'll still have your number down, at least your name down. So please, we're going to do the drawing shortly. But any other questions regarding the value of having this trust? If you have any comments on, again, I started by sharing some examples of people that didn't set it up and just set themselves up for a lot of battlefield, right? So any other comments on that?
Yeah, I just want to add to what the gentleman just explained. My earlier comment, it was that a will and a living trust, they are both legal documents. They are, whether recorded or not. Okay, correct. Okay,
correct. Yeah, they are, and the judge, with a will, the judge, and you go to probate, the judge will take into consideration what's on that will. The judge will also, because a lot of times a will is done when someone's on a deathbed or they're sick. So the judge is going to take all that into consideration. What was the state of mind of the individual when they did the will? Who's the beneficiaries of the will, and was they the only person with? For example, if I were on a deathbed and I'm doing a will and I give it to this one son, I got 5 other children, right? The other ones are going to say, well, he forced dad to do this. He made dad write out this this will where he got everything. The judge is going to take that into consideration. And that's why it goes through a probate situation because we don't know the circumstances by which the will was done. Whereas that living trust, that's sometimes a 15, 20, 40. I've seen him been in a title business. I've seen a 300-page trust. You know, when people have a ton of assets and a lot of money. And so they have big trust. They have several properties. They got several bank accounts and investment accounts and jewelry and furs and cars. And so they put all this stuff in a trust, right? To make sure that it's distributed equally. And it was right in the sense of, I've seen so many incidents where families fight. It blows my mind. And it just blows my mind because parents think, oh, my kids get along. And when I die, they'll just equally do it. And my gosh, when a parent is gone and the siblings, some of them need money, some of them don't need money, it tears families apart. And I've literally seen it done thousands, not hundreds of times, thousands of times, because I do a number of title transactions that are probate and trust related. And I'm just telling you, it's so much easier if you have multiple kids, if you have assets. I think the magic number is like 500,000, over 500,000 to do a living trust. That $1,200, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 that you invest to do a trust up front will save you thousands, because I think an average $500,000 probate is like $25,000. When they could have just invested a couple grand and got a trust done and saved all that heartache. And Gary put up there 1 to 3 years on a probate, right? To do a probate, it could be 1 to 3 years. Whereas a trust, bam, right away. Everything is
Counselor, can I ask a quick question? I was going to ask you offline actually, because it's not really along this line of trust, will, probate, and all. Do you also do prenuptial agreement?
Well, that's definitely an attorney situation. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
that would be offline. We can talk about that offline.
Okay, all right.
What I just want to make sure everybody understand, between the will, I mean, everything is good to do something. You know, David is a title person that we will go to if a will is created. If you have just one child, one person, and you put in a will, and you're able to pull all your document, all your asset in the will. But if one little asset is missing in the will, it's not going to be, it's going to need to go to probate. So a will easily goes to, every time I see, I've taken over, you know, helping people with a family property, and they have a will, but they don't put everything in the will. Even if you put a property and you don't put the address in the will, then it's subject to probate. Yes. Because now it can be contested. But a trust, if you have an assigned trustee, everything now goes underneath the umbrella of that trust, and the trustee just administer it from there. Now, yeah, they can challenge the trustee sometimes too, and that will need probate. But most of the time, when you have an assigned trustee, things just flow much, easier. And the key thing is you have it directed. You know, it's a check and balance, just for people to know. Is there any other questions? Because we're coming to the end. I always want to be precise on closing time, and we're going to do a raffle. So please stay true. We are going to do the raffle. We have a gift certificate for a restaurant, you know, for the family.
Hey, good morning, Gary. This is Mulu.
Morning, my friend.
How are you?
Good, good.
Good, good. I got a question. Can you do a trust, living trust for a family? You know, maybe a son or a daughter or a mom that you have out of the country? Can you include them?
I believe so. Now, let me get the question right. You meaning that you want to put them in the trust, correct?
Uh-huh.
And assigning some part of the wealth to go to them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, David, there's no issue to that, right?
Yeah, beneficiary is a beneficiary.
Wherever they are.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically, if you set up a trust, you have the trust, you have the beneficiary of the trust, and then you have the assigned trustee. I believe there's some people on this line that I know there was a gentleman, a doctor that passed away in PV. He has a trust, he has kids. The kids are the beneficiary, but his friend was the trustee of the trust. Another doctor friend of his. So that's quite possible. The beneficiary can be anywhere. It can be a grandma in Tahiti or in Ethiopia, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And just the trustee is assigned to do what it's supposed to do, according to the directions of the trust.
Right. So it's called a successor trustee. And if you're doing a trust, you should always have at least one or two successor trustees, at least two, because if something happens to the first person, then the second person takes over. And you should also make sure it's somebody that you really trust, someone who's honest and ethical. I can't tell you how many trusts I'm having issues with on the title side, where it was left to maybe one of the siblings, and now that sibling figures that he or she has all the power, they can do whatever they want because mom or dad left them in charge of the trust, and now they're fighting with the other siblings, and so it's a mess. So if you're setting up your trust, make sure, I think it's fair to, even if you have children, to sit down and say, hey, kind of, this is what's happening, this is why I'm giving it to this person. Or if you have a really trusted brother or sister who you know is going to do the right thing, let them deal with it and kind of take it out of the hands of the siblings. I know when my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, I'm the successor trustee and not the kids. I'm the in-law, I'm the son-in-law. But they trust, obviously I'm in this business and I'm married to one, and they know I'm going to do the right thing, right? And make sure, because they have a son who is a special needs, and they know I'm going to take care of him. I've been with this family been part of the family for 44 years. So they know I'm going to do the right thing, versus they don't want the kids fighting. And although I'm the spouse of one of the kids, they know I'm going to do the right thing. So you always want to make sure it's somebody that you trust, to take care of to handle your affairs.
All right. Well, thank you all so very much.